What are the Steelers doing? Big Deke news. Does anyone really know what the Steelers' plan is?
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, I will say this. I think the further I'm getting removed from this trade, even though it's still close, it only happened like 5 or 6 hours ago. The further we get removed from it as these hours are going by here, I'm just really starting to think that this is going to work out in the Steelers' favor. When it's all said and done, this is going to be a good move. Now, the timing's off. I don't think it takes away my instant reaction to it, that I'm scratching my head saying to myself, how is this helping our team for 2025, getting rid of Pickens? Now we're kind of putting ourselves in the same spot as last year with this wide receiver room. But I think ultimately it's going to be addition through subtraction. Now we don't have to walk on eggshells. Now we don't have to worry about Pickens' feelings. If he's randomly going to blow up one of these weeks and mess up with the team chemistry, because that is the stuff he has displayed his first 3 years in a Steeler uniform. And if it takes a contract year for all of a sudden Pickens to change things up and turn over a new leaf, it's like, are you really changing because you want to change, or are you just changing because you're about to get a contract? And then once you get the contract, is it just going to be back to your old ways? Like, these are legitimate questions. And if the Steelers weren't serious, ever really serious about giving Pickens that second contract, and they felt that it was just time, everything was too far gone, it's not even worth the 1-year experiment to keep Pickens on the roster and see what him and DK could do, then just it's time to cut bait. But the timing's bad, man. It's just like, why couldn't we have done this before the draft? If the plan all along was that we were going to trade Pickens at some point this offseason, then I kind of would have liked to have drafted a receiver in the first couple rounds. Matthew Golden was there at 21. Matthew Golden, the guy that I felt like was the best receiver in this draft. I felt like he was a cross between Santonio Holmes and Antonio Brown. Seriously. I mean, the speed's there too. He ran a 4.2 something at the combine. He would have been a nice addition. I probably would have preferred him over Derek Harmon in the first round if we knew we were trading Pickens. Now, ultimately, the Pickens trade didn't happen before the draft. There were talks between us and the Cowboys. Cowboys were trying to give us a 4th-round pick. We didn't feel like that was enough. Draft goes on. It ends, and we're sitting here a couple weeks removed, and Cowboys pony up a 3rd-round pick. They increase their offer, and the Steelers say, okay, that's good enough. It's like, damn, man. Wouldn't it have been better to maybe just do the trade before the draft and get the 4th-round pick and at least know where you stand? And maybe you can take a Matthew Golden in the first round, knowing that Pickens isn't on your roster. Now, a 3rd-round pick is always going to be better than a 4th-round pick, but that doesn't help us for this year. The 3rd-round pick's for 2026, and then the pick swaps are for 2027. So it's fair to question, going back to the beginning of the show, what is the Steelers' plan? Like, what is going on here? Receiver room got worse on paper. But again, is it addition through subtraction because Pickens' attitude, Pickens' antics aren't here anymore? That's also something to bring up. That's also something to consider with this. But we got to bring in something. We're going to have to bring in something else. And I actually have written down here a couple like bullet points that I wrote down after I did my instant reaction video of just other layers, other things to dissect about this trade. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go through them here and give my 2 cents on some of these factors and the aftermath of the Pickens trade. One of them is, how does this affect Aaron Rodgers' decision? A lot of people are bringing that up. And to me, I don't think this affects Aaron Rodgers' decision at all. I think on paper, it's nice to have more weapons for your quarterback than none, but I don't think Rodgers became Aaron Rodgers because he's stressing about a George Pickens, a caliber of receiver, being on his team or not. I'm sure he could look at a DK Metcalf, a Pat Freiermuth, some of these young receivers we got in here with Roman Wilson, a Calvin Austin, even a Robert Woods, and say, I can work with that. We also got Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, Caleb Johnson at running back. I can make that work. I could cook with that. But there is starting to be talks about Allen Lazard getting traded here. Of course. And there's some guys out there in free agency, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. I don't think those guys are upgrades over Pickens or anything like that at this stage of the game, but you're not going to be getting anything unprofessional out of them. So, again, that's something that factors into all this. It has to be, naturally. Chase Claypool, a dude that was getting over 800 yards receiving his first 2 years here in Pittsburgh, was on a decent pace in his third year. You think, man, how does this help us by getting rid of him? But it did. For whatever reason, there's some of that stuff that you can't explain. Vibes, team chemistry. So with Rodgers, yeah, I don't think this really is going to be dictating much. In fact, there's an argument moving off of Pickens could make Rodgers want to sign here more.
Aaron Rodgers didn't get to where he is as a future Hall of Famer by being an undisciplined, fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants quarterback, which is kind of the description you can apply to George Pickens. I think Aaron Rodgers is a very detailed quarterback, and I don't think his on-the-field relationship with George Pickens, who is anything but that, would mesh very well.
What about DK Metcalf? Is he pissed about this? No, for two reasons. I think it's just more targets for DK Metcalf. I don't think DK Metcalf views himself anything less than a franchise receiver, a wide receiver one, which is why we traded for him and gave him the contract that we gave him. He thinks him being on the field himself is enough to impact the offense and change the game for the offense and open things up for other players. He doesn't need a running mate to do that. Now, Pickens, of course, would have helped with the coverage on DK, lighting it up a little bit, but again, I don't think DK's too worried about getting doubled. He thinks I'm open, whoever the defense is throwing at me. It doesn't matter. The second reason, though, is he could take his number 14 back. That is available. Now, 4 is a dope number, but if I was DK, I'd go back to 14. It seems like he really has an affinity for that number. It was what he took back in college at Ole Miss, was 14 all the way through Seattle. So I say, why not? Another aspect being talked about is how the Steelers are really going to be locked in on this 2026 draft and getting their franchise quarterback. They're loading up on all these extra picks. The compensatory picks we got from all the free agents leaving, and then we also add this third rounder from the Cowboys. So we sit at a first rounder next year, a second rounder, 3 third rounders, 2 fourth rounders, 2 fifth rounders. I think one of those fifth rounders could become a third rounder. That's based off Russell Wilson's playing time and success with the Giants. 2 sixth rounders and a 7th. Now, here's my thing about the whole quarterback talk for 2026 and how we're loading up and we're going to be able to package something to move up. I don't think third round compensatory picks and fourth round compensatory picks is the thing that moves the needle that gets us from wherever we're probably going to be drafting in the first round to get a guy like Arch Manning or get a guy that's going to be picked in the top 3. You see what the Jaguars had to give up to move up 3 spots from 5 to 2 to get Travis Hunter? You think it's going to take, us swapping our first-round picks and maybe a future first and a couple third-round picks and a fourth-round pick to get it done? No, absolutely not. So I do like that we have some ammo here. Maybe some of those picks, it might be a multi-tiered type of move that takes us moving up. Because let's be honest, even with the roster looking like what it does right now, and I'm sure we're going to make another receiver move this offseason, and say Rodgers doesn't sign here, bro, we're not picking any better than 15. We're going to be like 9-8. We're going to be 10-7. We're going to be something like that. Let's just be honest. It is the Tomlin way. That is the Steelers' record over the course of all 18 seasons he's been here. So why am I going to think anything else? That's with, even after Ben retired, with all these different quarterback situations we've gone through. We've gone 9-8, 10-7, right? So why am I all of a sudden going to think that this year is going to be different. I feel like if anything, we've loaded up the roster pretty decently. Outside of this Pickens trade, this was a head scratcher. This was we've been taking 2 steps forward. This was all of a sudden like a 1 step back, and leaves us scratching our head of what's going on here. But I don't see us doing any. I don't see us tanking. I don't see us be picking in the top 10, in the top 5, anything like that. And I don't think all these picks that we're loading up on in 2026 is going to be enough for us to trade up, which is why I'm trying to say it might take a couple moves to get enough ammo. Maybe we could package up a couple of these 3rd-round picks, which would get us another 2nd-round pick. Package up a couple 3rds in a second. Get another team's first, and then you use both those firsts and a future first. It's going to take Omar Khan doing some con artist type of stuff is what I'm saying. I just don't think all these extra mid-round picks are going to be enough for us to slam dunk get the guy. Maybe it's going to take 2027 first or 2028 first, but that has nothing to do with these extra picks that we've been collecting this offseason. Because everyone's bringing up these extra picks as the indicator that we're going to be getting a quarterback in 2026. No, I think we're just going to be getting a quarterback in 2026, and we're going to do whatever it takes. Now, the picks don't hurt, but it's going to take a lot more than extra 3rd-round picks and 4th-round picks to move up if need be. What else do I got here? George Pickens apparently didn't request the trade. This was on the Steelers and them saying it was just time to move on. So there's that. We did hear from Fowler, again, that Pickens was thinking about requesting a trade. But maybe that's all you really need to know, right? Is like if Pickens was thinking about requesting a trade, it's like that kind of goes to show where the dynamic and the relationship was between the two. If Pickens was thinking about it, but ultimately said, "Nah, I'm good." It was just time. It was just time anyway. All right, I'll leave a few more of these things for a later video. I'm actually going to be going live on Bleach Report at 6, so if you guys want to stop through for that, give your takes, your reactions, vent in the chat. I'll be there. But yeah, that's what I got a few more things I wanted to discuss and go over with this trade, but I'm going to save it for then. And that's it for now for today's 2nd show thus far. I'll be doing, like I said, a 3rd show over Bleach Report. But yeah, that's it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay chilling. Peace.